Yo, so today we're going to be reacting to a video of Brendan Miller on how Trump is building an American dictatorship. So we're going to hear him out and see what he has to say. So let's just get into it.
Best chance of winning the general election.
Of the declared ones right now, Donald Trump.
Since Trump started in politics, he has been underestimated. Few thought he would win in 2016.
Donald Trump is not going to be president of the United States. Take it to the bank. I guarantee it.
Then supporters told us,
yeah, take it to the bank, huh? Take it to the bank.
Ideas like the Muslim ban should be taken seriously, but not literally, only for those ideas to become reality. Then Trump joked he wouldn't leave office.
One of them said, you know he's not leaving. He's not leaving. You know that. And I thought he's a comedian. I thought he was kidding. He's for real. So now we have to start thinking about that because it's not a bad idea.
Columnists, right?
I mean, isn't that what Trump is? Or at least maybe not Trump, but the administration is campaigning on him not leaving. So he was against that before, but now he's for it. So think about that too. But let's keep it going.
Articles with titles like "There will be no Trump coup," shortly before Trump sent a mob to the Capitol to try and overturn the election. So, given this long-running failure of imagination, what should we make of the idea that Trump is turning the US into a dictatorship?
We're going to have ICE surround the polls. We will never again allow an election to be stolen.
We should take over the voting in at least 15 places.
The signs seem everywhere. The violence of ICE on the streets, Trump's efforts to lock up political opponents, judges being arrested, media outlets compromised, use of the DOJ to get revenge, attacks on universities, attacks on business, promises of crackdown, videos of political arrests, use of emergency laws, large-scale corruption, Big Brother style banners everywhere. There's been a lot.
Usually they say he's a horrible dictator type person. I'm a dictator. But sometimes you need a dictator.
But at the same time, I know many...
Sometimes you need a dictator. Remember, that's our president saying this. Sometimes you need a dictator. This is our president saying this.
Feel skeptical of this idea. To be honest, I often feel skeptical of this idea. So I wanted to make a video focusing just on this question. Is Trump building a dictatorship in the US? And I'm going to do it in two parts. First, in this video, I'll set out all the reasons to worry. Then in another video, I'll give the more optimistic case. To answer this question, I've gone deeper, reading through a pile of reporting and research and looking at how dictatorships have emerged around the world and throughout history. This information is important because if we can understand the way dictatorships work at a deeper level, we can recognize the changes that are taking place right now, often hidden in plain sight, and so be able to stop Trump or anyone else building an American dictatorship. There's so much going on with Trump, so much noise, that with this dictatorship question, I want to zoom in on one particular area. At the foundation of all dictatorships are the security forces, the military, police and other parts of the state that wield the power of brute force. Trump is doing many things to undermine democracy, but ultimately it will be his ability to control these forces that is key if he wants to build a dictatorship. In a democracy, security forces get their direction from a government or leader who is chosen by the people through elections. And the different parts of these forces all serve the people. But what we see under a dictatorship is that these institutions are corrupted. They no longer exist to serve the people, but to oppress the people and keep the regime in control. And under Trump,
they no longer serve the people, but oppress the people to keep them under control. Isn't that kind of what this democracy is in America? They're keeping us under control. You ever thought about that? I mean, maybe it's my tinfoil hat. But ask yourself this question. Out of whoever's president, has your life significantly changed under any president? It has not. You're still working the same job. You're still getting the same pay. Gas prices, grocery prices may be slightly different. But are you getting a real significant change in your life? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But let's go.
There is plenty of evidence that this process is taking place in the United States.
Oh, yeah. Facts.
He says, can't you just shoot them? Just shoot them in the legs or something. And he's suggesting that that's what we should do, that we should bring in the troops and shoot the protesters.
Shoot the
To
protesters.
avoid protests of his first term, Trump wanted to use the military to break up protests. At that time, Trump's defense secretary stopped this happening, which Trump hated, later firing the man and venting to staff, "I need the kind of generals that hit the hand." Quote, people who were totally loyal to him, to follow orders. At another point, he appeared to refer to the massacre of protesters in Tiananmen Square in 1989, telling officials the Chinese generals would know what to do. Well, in his second term, Trump has made his appointments differently. Kash Patel, for example, is head of the FBI. A man whose qualifications include being a podcaster and writing a children's book casting himself as a wizard fighting a Russian.
What? Do y'all see the same thing I'm seeing on my screen right now? What the fuck? What the excuse my French.
A collusion hoax. The Secretary of Defense's Pete Hegseth, TV host and party boy, now in charge of 1.3 million active duty troops. So why has Trump hired such underqualified people? One common explanation is that he's a dummy who likes people who look good on TV. But hiring underqualified people is also about loyalty.
Our country has never been so secure thanks to you.
You have breathed life back into the profession of law enforcement, and you are...
Yes, man. 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 Trump knew exactly what he was doing, hiring these unqualified people who he is now firing left and right. I mean, yes, man. Yes, man. Yes, man. Yes, man. Yes, man. That's all it is. That's all it is. Crazy. You got money in this country, you can be anybody. You can be president. You can hire whoever you want. Oh, yeah, you're doing such a great job. Oh, yeah, oh, yeah, oh, yeah. Put money in my pocket. As long as you're putting money in my pocket, oh, yeah, oh, yeah, oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, you're good to go. You're good to go. Just keep putting money in my pocket. You're good to go. What's all about yes man, yes man? I mean, look at this dude, man. I mean, come on now. What is Kennedy? Secretary of Health? Can barely talk, got health problems of his own. Come on now, what are we doing? But we got yes men and yes woman. And he firing all of them. Chrissy Nome, Pam Bondi. And we got 3 more years, so who knows who else he's going to fire? I mean, come on now, y'all. Think about it.
I want to save the whales on the East Coast.
People like this know they'd never have their prestigious job without Trump, and so they become yes men, happy to be sycophants and do whatever they're told. This also explains why Trump is happy to appoint people who've criticised him in the past, knowing that when such people are turned to sycophants, they are humiliated, and thus have greater incentive to stay in Trump's circle, the one area where they have power and esteem. The net result is people who will do whatever Trump wants.
Can't you just shoot them? Just shoot them in the legs or something.
Hiring yes men is not the only way that Trump is ensuring the personal loyalty of those in the security forces. Since Trump was elected, his administration has fired unprecedented numbers of senior people from the military. They even fired the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, something that has never happened before. There have also been multiple waves of firings at the FBI, something that has contributed to a severe manpower shortage. In fact, Patel recently admitted it would take 14 years to get the agency fully staffed again. The intelligence agencies have also been cleared out. The head of the Defense Intelligence Agency was fired for daring to question whether Iran's nuclear program had been obliterated, and multiple intelligence professionals were ousted after Laura Loomer, a MAGA influencer, accused them of being, quote, disloyal to Trump. Why all of these firings? Well, from the perspective of a wannabe dictator, purges have many benefits. Removing long-standing leaders makes those institutions weaker, and thus easier to boss around. Purges also mean you make room for new yes-men. For example, the new chairman of the Joint Chiefs was seemingly brought in because Trump remembers him wearing a MAGA hat when they first met. Purges also...
Are you fucking kidding me? Excuse my lady. Are you serious right now? Cause he was wearing a MAGA hat? Now, you can take that as you will. But at the end of the day, is he just another yes man? Or is this general actually providing us with actual knowledge? Like, come on now.
To send a warning to others.
If you don't like what I'm saying, you can leave the room. Of course, there goes your rank, there goes your future.
For this reason,
if you don't like what I say, you can leave the room. There goes your rank, there goes your future. So now, do military people, IG, you know, generals have an incentive to go along with the get along because they don't want to lose their rank, lose their future? This is coming out the horse's mouth. This isn't me making it up. This is coming out the horse's mouth, man. I mean, just think about it. It's crazy. It's crazy. Let's let the video play out.
Purges of the security forces are a common characteristic of dictatorships. Stalin, for example, famously executed tens of thousands of Red Army officers. Saddam Hussein purged members of his party live on TV. And just recently, President Xi used claims of corruption to purge a top general. When Trump can't hire yes men or purges aren't an option, he's used other tactics to put pressure on those in the security forces. FBI agents are asked in job interviews who they voted for, polygraphed about their political beliefs, while judges are insulted and threatened. Trump has also tried to corrupt the neutrality of the military.
You think this crowd would have showed up for Biden? I don't think so. I don't think so.
I think that's bullshit. Making the military sway a political way, either left or right. I don't think that's right at all. If Biden did it, I don't think that's right, and I don't believe that, you know, Trump doing it is right at all either. I don't think that's right at all. You know, when I served my country, the American people, right? I don't care about right, left, up, down, sideways. I didn't care about none of that. I served the American people. I didn't care, you know, Democrat, Republican. But Trump's trying to sway the military. I don't like that. Let me know your thoughts in the comments on that, but let's keep the video playing.
I don't think so.
By turning speeches into political rallies, encouraging troops to boo political opponents, ordering the removal of soldiers with, quote, political views that are in opposition to the current administration, all while vendors sell MAGA hats and other merchandise. For Trump, the threats, the purges, the yes men, it's all about personal loyalty. But while the concept is an obsession of his, what he's asking for is actually a corruption of loyalty.
Do solemnly swear. Support and defend.
Those in the military swear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution, not to a person. In fact, loyalty is at the top of the US Army's list of values, but it's defined as true faith and allegiance to the US Constitution. In other words, the military must be loyal, but it's loyal to the laws and democracy at the heart of the American system, not to any particular politician, leader or party. That's why it's wrong for the military to boo or cheer politicians, and why it'd be wrong for a general or any other member of the military to wear a MAGA hat and uniform. But of course, a dictator doesn't want security forces to be politically neutral, loyal to whoever is elected. He wants them to be loyal to him personally.
Ich schwöre Adolf Hitler
That's why when Hitler came to power, he replaced the traditional oath to the German constitution with an oath naming him personally. Under Mao, soldiers were expected to recite quotations from...
Comparing Trump to Hitler is crazy. Okay, listen, I got my gripes with Trump, but comparing him to Hitler is crazy. Okay? Compare him to killing 6 million Jedis. I can't say the word because of YouTube, but you know what I'm talking about. That's absolutely crazy. Absolutely crazy. But we'll have another video on this dude. Yeah. We'll have another video on I can't believe I even said his name, but you know what I'm talking about. The guy who killed 6 million Jews. We'll have a video of it. Because I don't want to spoil it. But let's let the video play out.
A little red book of his personal sayings, and Saddam Hussein named one part of the army the Fedayeen Saddam, literally Saddam's men of sacrifice, a unit his son Uday, a big Star Wars fan, dressed all in Darth Vader helmets. This is clearly the direction that Trump wants to take the US security forces in. It's a diminishment of the US military and the country's public servants, and it's a corruption of loyalty that takes the country closer to a dictatorship. It's not only the people, it's the purpose of these institutions that's being corrupted. I made a whole video about how the Department of Justice is now organised to be Trump's personal retribution machine, corrupted from its purpose of enforcing the law without fear or favour. Another example is the FBI, the purpose of which is to protect America against organised crime and terrorism, and maybe the odd investigation into the paranormal, but is now used to take revenge on Trump's critics, to act as drivers for the buddies of Kash Patel's girlfriend, or to investigate the widow of someone ICE agents have just shot without justification. But perhaps the...
Yeah, I mean, don't you think that's bullshit? Yeah, I mean, at least left or right, you gotta think that, hey, the FBI is doing, you know, their investigations on, you know, bullshit like this when they could be utilizing their resources to benefit the American people, or to help people, or to get, you know, the right perpetrators, stuff like that. But instead, the FBI is being used by Trump to side political sway. I think that's bullshit, to me, at least. That's my personal opinion. I think it's bullshit. Excuse me. But
most worrying corruption of purpose is Trump's obsession with using the US military against its own citizens.
Extraordinary images out of Los Angeles tonight. Hundreds of National Guard troops now on the ground, deployed by President Trump, even though state leaders say they didn't ask for them and don't want them there.
In June last year, Trump sent National Guard and Marines to Los Angeles. And since then, Trump has deployed troops all over the US.
You take a look at what's been going on in Portland, that's insurrection. I mean, that's pure insurrection.
Trump has justified these deployments as needed to counter insurrection and crime emergencies, though it's not credible to call these protests insurrections, and the crime rates in the cities Trump has targeted were already trending down. The aim of the military is to protect the country from external threats, not...
He's got a point. He's got a point. Crime was trending down, so why would you deploy military there? It's all this shit is just political influence to get you guys to sway a certain way. But crime is trending down in the city that you deploy Marines to, that you deploy National Guard to. I mean, come on now. Think about that shit, man. I mean, y'all can't really be like, yeah. I mean, how many excuses are we going to make for this guy, man? I mean, come on. He deployed militants to a city that the crime rate was trending down on. How do you explain that? Explain in the comments for me. Maybe I'm missing something. Explain in the comments for me.
Suppress protests. After all, when service members are pledging loyalty to the Constitution, they're pledging loyalty to defending rights like the right to protest. But dictators, of course, see things differently. They need the military to put down protests, as the Chinese army did in 1989, commanded by generals that Trump says he admires. The founders of America knew about the ways soldiers on the streets can be used to oppress people, and the US has long-standing laws against using the military domestically. But Trump has established a new normal, placing the most powerful part of a state's security forces where they will be most needed in a dictatorship. In the capital city, where he has the power to command them directly, and in democratic cities that are most likely to be sources of protest as he tightens his control, corrupting the military, like other parts of the security forces, from their purpose as protectors of America's democracy into a force that can destroy it. There's one other way in which Trump is corrupting the US security forces.
Video released by Trump administration officials shows a 29th boat strike that killed one person in the Eastern Pacific.
Since September 2025, at least 128 people have been killed in dozens of airstrikes on alleged drug boats. Now let's...
God damn, I ain't see these strikes, man. Holy wow. Wow. Blowing them up, y'all. Holy dang.
Put aside for one moment that these are, best case, executions without trial, without evidence, and with no imminent threat to the US. For many, this won't seem too different to past America.
I would push back on that. If they're... So, I believe that we were shooting down those boats because they were bringing drugs into the U.S., which internally, if you bring drugs into the U.S., then people get high, and then people die, and then you sell it to other people, then people also die. So Americans are dying because these drugs are coming into the U.S., so I would push back on that a little bit. You know, I don't think he's all the way right on that. You know, to his point where, you know, you have to have a trial and all that. Well, this may be a little bit controversial, and this may be my independent mind thinking. You know, liberals would say, well, we should just bring them in and try them and convict them and all this stuff. But my independent mind thinking that if we can just get rid of them at the sea, then it'll save a whole bunch of time, to be honest. Get rid of them at the sea. You know, but I'm kind of, you know, I'm kind of down the middle when it comes to that. It's like, get rid of them so Americans can stop dying, or, you know, pick them up, try them, convict them, and all this stuff. I don't know. But let's let the video play out.
Foreign policy. But if you're looking for signs of an emerging dictatorship, what's most worrying about these actions is the precedent they set for the US military breaking US laws.
Sources tell CNN the US military carried out a follow-up strike on September 2nd after becoming aware of survivors in the water. The sources tell us that prior to the strike, Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth had ordered the military to ensure everyone on board was killed.
Killing your opponent when they're disarmed is dishonorable, but it's also clearly against US law. In fact, the US Law of War Manual even uses firing upon the shipwrecked as an example of the kind of thing that even ordinary soldiers would know is unlawful. We're used to hearing about America's illegal wars, and as I record this, Trump has started a war with Iran that is against international law. But I'm focusing on this boat strike because it's such a clear example. Even MAGA fan channel Newsmax said it was a crime.
This is an act of a war crime, ordering survivors who the law requires be rescued instead to be murdered. There's absolutely no legal basis for it. Everybody along the line who did it, from the Secretary of Defense to the Admiral to the people who actually pulled the trigger, should be prosecuted for a war crime for killing these two people.
Of course, it's important for the military to obey orders from civilian leadership, but like every part of the security forces in a democracy, they have to follow the law. This idea is foundational. It's there in the Army's Oath of Enlistment, where service members promise to obey the orders of the President according to regulations and the Uniform Code of Military Justice. But of course, a dictator doesn't want the law.
That's important. The Uniform Code of Military Justice. So, you know, my sergeant can't just say, hey, go over there. I can't be in garrison, right? And this is why the Uniform Code of Military Justice exists, right? So I can't be in garrison, right? And then my sergeant say, hey, go in town and just kill all the civilians at this specific bar, right? That's an unlawful order. I can say, no, I'm not going to do that, Sergeant. I'm not going to do that. That's an unlawful order, right? I'm not going to execute a bunch of civilians just because you say so. That's an unlawful order, right? But that's garrison. When it comes to combat, you know, it's very situational, and everybody has to understand that. But let's see what he's got to say.
Interfering with his orders. That's why in Turkey, when President Erdogan was building his dictatorship, he passed a series of immunity laws that protected his security forces from the law, while Putin has passed similar laws in Russia. And now in the US, Trump's administration is systematically trying to do the same thing with the US military. Hegseth has fired the top military lawyers, made it harder for rank and file to report wrongdoing, and has downgraded the rules that restrict how soldiers treat civilians and prisoners and so on.
Our laws are clear. You can refuse illegal orders.
You can refuse illegal orders.
You must refuse illegal orders.
You can see how important it is for Trump to have the US military outside the law, from his reaction to 6 Democratic lawmakers releasing a video urging those in the armed forces to refuse illegal orders. An idea that is, as we've seen, at the core of the US military's culture. Yet Trump called their videos seditious behavior punishable by death, while his prosecutors tried to charge them with breaking the law. This is all happening in a wider context of impunity, where Trump argues anyone who saves his country, as defined by him, does not violate any law, uses his pardon power to protect violent supporters, and where the Supreme Court has granted him wide-ranging immunity. Trump is trying to create a situation that is, in effect, forget the lawyers, do whatever I say, I'll cover you. It's a corruption of accountability that takes America closer to a dictatorship. Okay, so we've talked about FBI, military, intelligence services, but now I want to look at a different part of the security services, one that looks key to America's emerging dictatorship.
Sport Nurse Automotive Group has the pre-owned vehicle you're looking for.
We have hundreds of late model, low mileage, quality pre-owned cars, trucks, and SUVs.
All ready for you to drive home today. For over 25 years.
How bad, y'all? I got ads.
Sport Nurse.
Biblical devastation.
Washing homes and neighborhoods away.
Hardest hit North Carolina, where every single county has been impacted.
After Hurricane Helene turned our state upside down, Michael Watley was tapped to lead the recovery. But on Watley's watch, $100 million in disaster relief delayed, support for families who lost their homes denied, and funding to fix schools and water systems still hasn't shown up. Tell Michael Watley, do your job. Release all the recovery funds now.
Getting glasses soon? Prices rising? Tough.
You know at Stanton you can get 2 glasses and an eye exam for just $79?
Don't believe.
So normally I'd have a sponsor at this point in the video, but today I thought I'd quickly explain what I'm trying to do on this channel. For years I worked in news and politics television, but was always frustrated that so much of what we were doing was surface level. So here on this channel I try and share ideas, concepts, theories that, unlike the news which is always changing and going out of date, they're timeless. They're conceptual tools that will be useful for many years to come. As well as ideas that explain the world, I also share ideas like political. Preparing this video all about dictatorships. There's also other benefits, and Substack does a free. It is arguably what many people voted for.
We will carry out the largest deportation operation in American history. We have no choice.
However, many observers don't see just immigration enforcement.
This is Gestapo type stuff.
Gestapo-like behavior.
Are we really going to be the Gestapo? Where's your papers? Is that what we've come to?
The Gestapo were Hitler's secret police. In fact, the word is an abbreviation of Geheimstaatspolizei, which literally means secret state police. The Gestapo targeted communists, dissidents, and anyone they thought was a political threat to the Nazi regime. Later, they also targeted Jews and others they deemed undesirable, subjecting them all to a...
By that definition, I don't think that we ever had a Gestapo police. Despite all the deaths that happened under ICE, I don't think that we had like a Gestapo type. I want to say regime, but this Gestapo type military presence. That's just my personal opinion. I don't believe that we had that, or that we ever had that, or that we ever will have that. To be honest, that's just my personal opinion, though. But let's see what he has to say.
System of arrest, torture, and detention. The purpose of a secret police is to target political opponents and dissidents, and you find versions of them in all dictatorships. For example, Russia has the FSB, the intelligence agency that is the successor to the KGB. This is the agency that Putin, himself once a KGB officer, is used to imprison and kill opposition.
Wait, is that?
Well, Russia has the FSB, the intelligence agency that is the successor to the KGB. This is the agency.
Is that Putin? Oh my gosh! Have y'all ever seen Putin with hair? Oh my god! Hey, check it out. No hairline. He look like a little young Chad out there in Russia. He look like he don't give a fuck about nothing. All right, let's go.
Putin, himself once a KGB officer, is used to imprison and kill opposition figures such as Alexei Navalny. So does it make sense to see ICE as Trump's secret police? Well, much of their action does seem political, targeting people because of their political activism, or for even just writing editorials. They have arrested politicians and targeted protesters with violence. You start to notice other parallels as well. The way immigrants have been othered and dehumanized.
They're bringing drugs. They're bringing crime. They're rapists.
Described as pollution.
They're poisoning the blood of our country. That's what they've done.
And now forced.
They're bringing drugs. They're bringing crimes. They're poisoning our country. Donald Trump. We already have that, sir. We already have that. Why don't you fix that here? Why don't you talk about that here? Why don't you talk about the number one group, the number one ethnicity that has the most rapes, that has the most drugs? Why don't you talk about that group that has the most crimes? Why don't you talk about that group? Look up who has the most crime. Look up what ethnicity, what group, what racial group has the most crimes, has the most rapes, has the most drugs, convictions, addictions, all that. Look that up. But why don't we talk about that? You talk about the illegal immigrants that come into this country, and only less than 5% of them are actual violent offenders, drug offenders. Come on now.
Into hiding, an echo of the way Jews were forced.
Just saying.
Hitler. The other way ICE seems like a secret police is their secrecy. Their masks have become notorious. Officers operating unlike the regular police without badge numbers, names, or body cams. Some even posing as construction workers and delivery drivers to make arrests. ICE also uses surveillance like a secret police force, tracking the location of targets using mobile phone signals, monitoring protests with predator drones, even monitoring social media for anti-ICE sentiment. In which case, hi guys!
It's not illegal to record.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing.
Yeah, why are you taking my information down?
Because we have a nice little database.
Oh, good.
And now you're considered domestic terrorist.
In all this, it's not just immigrants who are targeted, but US citizens, tracked using facial recognition and other data sources so as to intimidate them. In fact, in the footage of Rennie Good, you can see the ICE officer using his phone to record a face and license plate for this purpose, shortly before he shot her.
We're huddled, trying to stay warm, wrapped in these aluminum foils, looking like dead bodies.
There's no window that you can look outside.
I never was able to breathe fresh air.
Fluorescent lights are shining 24/7.
I worked as a journalist in Egypt, and I was persecuted and detained and tortured. My experience at the Butler County Jail was more traumatizing than my detention in Egypt.
ICE currently has over 70,000 people locked up in a network of detention centres. Centres with overcrowding and awful conditions, and many people dying, often from a lack of medical care or suicide. In fact, the Associated Press reported that guards were making bets over which detainee would be next to die from suicide, and it's a system that's due to expand.
The Department of Homeland Security is planning to spend nearly $40 billion on new immigration detention centers.
All this parallels the creation of the Gulag system in the USSR under Stalin, which held millions of people, the system of Nazi camps where political opponents were held under, quote, protective custody, or the re-education camps currently existing in Xinjiang, China, into which over 1 million Muslim Uyghurs have been sent. The detention centers also parallel the way many US citizens were imprisoned without trial during the Second World War, with some of the current detention centers in the same locations.
To all ICE officers, you have federal immunity in the conduct of your duties.
Perhaps the most ominous way in which ICE feels like something from a dictatorship is the way it seems it can get away with anything. As Stephen Miller knows, even when federal agents kill someone, US law makes it very difficult for states to bring charges against federal officers, or for families to sue for damages.
This is why Chrissy Noem got fired, in my opinion. This is exactly why Chrissy Noem got fired. Well, maybe not exactly, but dude, maybe I should. Maybe I shouldn't. But Chrissy Noem got fired for a reason. Let's just say that. Okay? Chrissy Noem got fired for a reason. And I personally believe, in my personal opinion, that she did a shitty job running the whole, what was it, Department of Homeland Security. That's just my personal opinion. But let's the video play out.
The DOJ, who should investigate, is no longer impartial and will join the FBI in investigating the family of the victim, while the shooter is rewarded with donations. And this lawlessness is everywhere. ICE telling its officers they can enter people's homes without a judge's warrant and repeatedly violating court orders.
In his latest blistering ruling, writing, ICE has likely violated more court orders in January 2026 than some federal agencies have violated in their entire existence.
What? ICE agents violated more court orders? Are you Trump supporters, MAGA, ICE supporters, I'm talking to y'all. Explain this. Timestamp this. 1940s, 19 minutes. Explain that, please. Thank you.
This lack of accountability is a key aspect of security services under a dictatorship. The Gestapo, for example, was governed by a special law that made it immune from judicial review and oversight, answering only to Hitler. In fact, in 1941, a German Jewish lawyer who had escaped Nazi Germany wrote a book called The Dual State, which captured how this works. The two parts of the state were the normative state, the ordinary world of laws and courts that was needed to keep the economy and normal society functioning, and the other part was the prerogative state, where the regime is, quote, released from all legal restraints and depends solely on the discretion of the persons wielding political power. But having said all that, there are ways the Gestapo comparison doesn't seem quite right, as it focused more on targeted arrests rather than random sweeps, and Hitler had control of another organisation that might be a closer parallel. The SA, stormtroopers or ground shows, were Hitler's thugs and enforcers, used by Hitler to intimidate opponents, judges, and voters. In our schema of a dictator's security forces, they're known as a pro-regime militia. Other examples include the colectivos in Venezuela, or the Basij in Iran, who recently gunned down many thousands of protesters. Militias are also part of US history. Industrialists hired the Pinkerton Detective Agency to break strikes in the 1800s. And for almost a century, most Southern Democrats were content to let the Ku Klux Klan terrorize and lynch black citizens. Like other parts of the security forces, Trump wants ICE to be loyal to him personally. And while the military and FBI have traditions of professionalism and loyalty to the Constitution that make this harder, corrupting the loyalty of people in ICE is much easier. Partly this is done with money, signing on bonuses of $50,000 and help with student loans. But the main reason it's easier is that so many ICE recruits are new, meaning the administration can ensure that those who sign up share their political agenda.
It's a meme often used by right-wing influencers, and which refers to this book, a 700-page anti-Semitic rant popular with neo-Nazis.
The administration is using far-right memes to attract recruits who are likely to support Trump personally, while at the same time cutting their legal training.
Without reform, ICE will graduate thousands of new officers who do not know their constitutional duty, do not know the limits of their authority, and who do not have the training to recognize an unlawful order. That should scare everyone.
The Trump
Now, first of all, the problem with that comment is when you actually recruit somebody, right? They don't know anything. They don't know any of that shit. Okay? So they get taught that after they get accepted into whatever they're doing, right? For instance, if I were to just join the Marine Corps, right? I don't know anything about nothing, right? But I'm going to get taught all that while I'm in. So I think that's a disingenuous comment. This is my independent side. I know you liberals are gonna be mad at me about this, but I don't think that they should expect to know all of everything before they come into something. That's crazy as fuck to me, but whatever.
Administration has also set very low standards when it comes to recruitment, waiving maximum age requirements and failing to vet candidates, to the point where it's become a joke.
As an equal opportunity employer, we accept all levels of
This is AI.
education, from low to
This
very
is AI.
low, and actively welcome those with diagnosed anger issues.
I wanted to join the regular police, but they told me they wouldn't take someone who was already under arrest. Animal Control said nope.
Like the underqualified
This
cabinet,
is obviously
Trump wants
AI.
people who know they'd only have a job with him in power. And who therefore can't afford not to be loyal. Okay, so we've set out how Trump has corrupted the various parts of the security forces into a coercive regime, including a secret police and pro-regime militia. A system designed not to serve the people, but to enforce the control of the leader. But here I want to talk about some of the objections you hear when you talk about this topic. Some of the objections I even had.
Vladimir Vladimirovich Putin.
If you look at dictators like Putin, you see calculating, smart politicians working systematically to achieve their aim of permanent power. Similarly, Hitler had a clear intention of being a dictator and seized on events that allowed him to implement that vision. Many observers describe Trump's actions in the same way, using language like authoritarian playbook. But does Trump really feel like this?
I picked those drapes in my first term. I always liked gold.
Trump is so chaotic and easily distracted, it hardly feels like he's got a master plan. Also, while in this video I've been explaining everything from the perspective of dictatorship, there are other explanations. Trump's purge of the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, for example, was also motivated by the fact the man had released a video.
He keeps bringing this guy up. He keeps bringing this guy up. I mean, it was a big thing. It definitely was a headline. But I wonder why he keeps bringing him up. Before you get in the comments, I don't think because he's black. I mean, I just wonder why he keeps bringing him up, because he's brought him up multiple times in this video, in multiple segments.
During the 2020 George Floyd protests talking about racism, a wokeness crime that Trump and his people held against them. Similarly, many of the other firings were about Trump punishing agents who'd worked on investigations of him. As I explored in a previous video, Trump has a self-defeating obsession with getting revenge on those he sees as enemies. If Trump was really after dictatorship, you'd think he'd focus more on those who will run in 2028. For me, this question of Trump's motivation was often the reason I doubted the coming dictatorship argument. But here's how my thinking's changed. First, even if Trump's authoritarian actions are driven more by instinct than a master plan, the damage to democracy is still happening. Compare how we think about the economy. No politician has a master plan to destroy the economy, but if they destroy the economy, then we recognize the damage being done. Besides, there have been other dictators in history who didn't start with plans of dictatorship, but ended up there all the same. Also, if American democracy is damaged, it's much easier for other politicians, more ruthless and intentional politicians, to take advantage of that situation. Dictatorship by instinct is still dictatorship.
When education works for you, everyone wins. Flexible, affordable. Learn more at wgu.edu.
Project Hail Mary is a blockbuster families can enjoy together.
Thumbs up, baby.
It's a genuinely transformative.
Go ahead, take our break. Get some water.
This is one for the ages.
Get some food.
Project Hail Mary.
Take our break. You know, watching ads actually supports the creators, so. But I know I need to get ads removed. I know. So don't come at me in the comments about this shit. I already know.
Ion. Hungok Tire.
Taxes was chasing updates and getting nowhere.
Another objection is that this is all exaggeration. How can we talk about Hitler and dictatorships when Trump's actions are still checked by the Supreme Court? And despite his bluster, the 2026 midterm elections and the 2028 elections are still widely expected to be competitive. And I do think there is a point here, especially in the way comparisons with Hitler can be out of date. In Nazi Germany, the passing of the Enabling Act in 1933 gave Hitler's cabinet the power to enact laws without parliamentary approval and marked a clear moment. Similarly, many other dictatorships have begun with military coups or revolutions. In other words, moments when there's been a definite change from democracy to dictatorship. I think this is the binary model in most people's minds, talking about the death of democracy or crossing the line into dictatorship. But in more recent decades, fewer dictatorships or autocracies have developed like this. Rather than sudden moments, democracies have...
You guys ever thought about that? Like, why haven't we cared about... So y'all are like, oh my gosh, Iran and their dictatorship, and they're killing, protesters. Y'all haven't thought about Russia at all and Putin? How come y'all haven't talked about that? How come you even talked about that? How come you talked about Putin and his dictatorship? Why isn't there an uproar about that? Huh, MAGA? Make America great again, right? How come you aren't talking about Putin? Just saying.
Have been slowly undermined and degraded into dictatorship and authoritarianism. Scholars talk of democratic backsliding, decay, erosion, and have come up with many terms to describe this ambiguous state between healthy democracy and full-blown dictatorship. This kind of model lets you account for how authoritarian countries can go from bad to worse. Putin's dictatorship in Russia today is worse than it was 10 years ago, for example, and lets you see how even if America under Trump is not a full-blown dictatorship, that doesn't mean all is well. The key question is, where will the US end up? Okay, let's imagine we're approaching the 2028 elections. Trump hadn't planned to run a third time, but he decides he's enjoying the amount of money he's accumulating and remembers the accountability he faced when he was last out of power. And while the Constitution and the polling are against him running a third time, Trump decides to defy expectations as he has in the past. After all, it's not normal times. It is, as he's been saying since he introduced tariffs, an emergency. Or maybe by now repeated provocation in democratic cities has led to serious riots, or maybe there's been another assassination attempt. Trump's administration decides it's time to crack down on left-wing organizations, in the way it threatened to do after Charlie Kirk's killing, to finally arrest all the politicians Trump's threatened to over the years, to
That's
go after
crazy.
activists using the surveillance and secret
Crazy
methods
AI
Trump's
video.
agencies have become so practiced at.
Donald Trump once again floated the idea of canceling the midterms.
He boasted that he had accomplished so much that when you think of it, we shouldn't even have an election.
Trump has joked about cancelling elections before, but maybe things are more serious now. After all, it wouldn't be surprising if the US is at war, and it's only natural that war changes things. As Trump joked before, if Ukraine's elections are suspended because of war, why can't it be the same in the US? In the US's own history, the Civil War was grounds for locking people up indefinitely without trial. The First World War led to the administration shutting down opposition media, and the Second World War saw, as we've seen, thousands of US citizens put in detention camps. Even if the elections aren't suspended, at the very least, Republicans in Congress should, as Trump has already urged, take them over to prevent fraud, by which of course Trump means any result that doesn't favour him. ICE agents could help with this, as Steve Bannon has already threatened, intimidating and arresting Democratic voters in strategic locations that help win key states. Or, another scenario, the FBI, now completely corrupt, finds evidence of a deep state coup being plotted against Trump. After all, coups have been used by other dictators as opportunities to purge judges and change the constitution. However it happens, it's clear the dictatorship is here. Protests start to break out, but don't worry, Trump already has control of the police in the capital city, and now he sends National Guard from Trump states to suppress the protests. Previous Trump appointees resisted such orders, but after the purges, it's not hard to find commanders to say yes. He also sends ICE officers, people already recruited for their pro-Trump politics, who know they are unaccountable for what they do, radicalized by years of hatred from protesters, and perhaps fearing for their jobs if the opposition wins. With ICE, Trump has a national security force that is directly answerable to him. And unlike the military, which is reluctant and unused to operating domestically, ICE is a regular presence on the streets, practiced in violence against civilians, and backed up by a gulag of detention centers. Another scenario is Congress put under pressure. Hitler famously used SS troops to pressure Germany's parliament into giving him dictatorial powers. In 2020, in El Salvador, Bukele sent troops into parliament to get his way and help establish his dictatorship. And Trump supporters used force to try and intimidate Congress into overturning the 2020 election result. So imagine Congress asked to push through changes in the Constitution. They can hear Trump's thugs chanting.
I mean, are y'all going to condone January 6th? Y'all going to condone that?
Outside the chamber. And this time the DC police, under Trump's control, are ordered to stand aside. ICE will be there to help too, either officially or perhaps given the day off, free to act as an unaccountable militia. The Constitution suspended, opposition detained, elections controlled. And while it might not have come about through a master plan, not all of a sudden, the result will be the same, an American dictatorship. Okay, there we are. That's the case for worrying.
Well, there it is, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, great video by Brendan Miller. man. Shout out to him. Great video. I agree with a lot. I disagree with some things, but I agree with a lot on what he has to say. Let me know what you have in the comments. Thank you guys for watching the video, and stay tuned for the next one, man. Peace.